Okay, so here we are. Welcome each and every one of you to another episode of Living in the Flow. Into Oneness is the title of the episode today. And I hope that you can hear me and that you can see both of us, that you can hear both of us. And we're both, Tanya and I both are very excited to be participating in these. We have a beautiful audience, and we feel each and every one of you as you are joining in, as you are participating, whether that is now or whether that is later. And it has just been such a joy to do this show, because it's Tanya often who comes with the titles, the subtitles for the show. And it is just so perfect, because then we go into this month and we experience, I certainly experience that whatever theme that we talk about in a new way, so that, so that I can sort of present it, so that I can channel it, so that I can speak about it in a new way. Because all of the things, all of the experiences that we have, they continually expand, they continually grow. And that's what is exciting about the whole thing. So we've got still people joining in. And also I would like to say, for those that are new, if you want to ask some questions, join in with Zoom. You still can. It's not too late. If you're on Facebook, you can still join in with Zoom, and then type in under the Q&A button your question, and we'll be answering those at the end of this show. Over to you, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Alexis, for creating this space, because you're the one who's in the back end there, creating all of the Zoom possibilities for us to come into this live co-creation. And I must tell everyone, it's been such a joy to be with Alexis in this experience, because I can't even begin to explain that it is exactly the theme of today, of this inviting oneness, is that we are so into that in ourselves that there seems to be absolutely no gap between me and Alexis in this flow of co-creation. So either when we're on live or when we're preparing what we're gonna do next or whatever, it's just so simple. It's a joy and a gratitude to be able to experience something like this. So thank you very much, Alexis. And of course, every one of you that is attending live right now and that will be with us later on at a later date, because there is no time and space. We thank you. I thank you personally as well. We feel it. And today, especially, I feel a big openness.
Mm-hmm.
So, whoever is attending, you're probably experiencing much more openness in your lives as well. And that is even
Mm-hmm.
more magnificent. So, thank you.
Yes, yes, I agree. It's just been such an ease and grace, and it's so effortless that it feels like it's not work even, like to be
Mm,
doing this, and it
yeah.
isn't work. And there are so many different things that we can talk about, and the feedback we got from people is that that this show helps them, that they are increasing, their flow of abundance, allowing their abundance, allowing the joy in their life. And this is the whole purpose of this, because the purpose of all of these things that we're doing is not to really talk about something fantastical that is not real, but to talk about something that we do in our daily lives, that we bring in our daily lives. But it does require that step, well, a continual stepping into choosing that, allowing that, and then allowing the courage, because it does take a lot of courage, because you have to, and it does take a lot of that audacity, because you have to move aside. It's like, let's say if you have a phone in your hand and you move aside all the suffering that other people are going through, you move aside the fears that people are going through, you move aside all the drama, and you keep choosing your inner self, your inner soul. And it matters not what words you use, it matters not like how whether we're technically correct or spiritually correct. We just use the words that come in that moment to express. I noticed with many people that they are so afraid to express because the mind is saying, oh my gosh, but that person said that and that teacher said that. Am I expressing correctly? There comes a time when you let all of that go, because when you're an artist and canvas is your life, who cares whether like some great painter used this tone of color, you bring your own color, you bring your own words, how you express. It's your right to express the way you do, what words you use, what expressions you use, what expressions you allow yourself, because that's when that beautiful, incredible expansion happens. That's where freedom happens. Freedom happens when you are with your soul, when you're expressing that creativity. And creativity becomes like a real, like it's not separate. You know how in the old days, and for majority of humanity, it's still like this, that the creativity is job is separate. You have a job and then you have a private life. But when you are creating with your soul self, as a soul self, you, every step is a creative process. Like for example, like whatever, when I'm going for walks, when I'm cooking, when I'm cleaning my floors, I get all these inspirations and aha moments and insights, regardless of what part of my life I'm doing. There is no separation in this way. And I get the insights of what to speak, what to perhaps create next, what videos or whatever, whether it's the shows, whether it's the just writing for myself. And a lot of it also is just for yourself. Like there was yesterday quite an incredible moment, because I was walking, and all of a sudden, I stopped because the light from the sun was so beautiful. I was in a forest, and in the afternoon, you have those individual sun rays just lighting up thin ray amidst the trees. And I stopped at the tree to sort of like just relax and stretch my body and look at that beauty that I was looking at. And I realized I was at the portal. There was a point of a fork in the road, which often happens. It happens in so many ways. And some people experience this very unconsciously, when as humanity, as a group, or as individuals, we come to the point of choice and another point of separation. And for me, that happened yesterday afternoon. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, there's a question that asks me something and I need to answer. Do I say yes? I go ahead. We go ahead with the next level. And then I have to step through the portal and just do it. And I said yes, as I always do. But it is how it happens. It's just this you're in this sweetness spot of yourself where everything is just so perfect, so right in the world, and you feel so delicious, so peaceful inside of you, and the time expands, and everything around you just drink in this beauty that you see around you. And it's just incredible. And all of those kind of feelings have still been with me today. There have been huge expansions we have stepped into, even though we maybe perhaps it wasn't conscious for each and every one of us. We have decided to go ahead. We have decided to move to a next level of this change. It means we need more openness, more trust in self, more dedication, commitment to self, because every next level requires more of this. And even though it seemed like in the previous level that we've given 100%, we find another different 100% again. Over to you, Tanya.
Yes, that is so it. Actually, the whole
Mm.
week has been
Yes,
that.
the whole week.
And the whole week has been that.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday morning, when I got up, precisely I had the same portal
Mm-hmm.
like you, but in a whole different kind of experience. So I got up, and the first light of the sun was coming up over the hill, and I got to witness it coming up. So it was still just the light, and then the actual sun started rising, and I just had to stop and be there and just watch that. And I felt, yes, yes, let's move on to the next level. Yes. And on the very same day, in the evening, again, the moon was just so beautiful there in the sky between Jupiter and I don't know what the other planet was, but just there and all pink around and radiant. And it was like, yes, 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 that feeling, that, and it's been happening all week long. And I've been waking up in this lake of such immense peace, because we are in peace all the time. Well, at least I feel like my heart is in peace all the time, but there are periods where for consecutive days that is actually so palpable that it's like you've slept in it, you wake up in it, and it's like not only in your heart, but it's sort of tangible. You're in it 100%. It's that just all pervading peace. And I felt that all week long. And then I had that sunrise beckoning, get up. And I went, and it was just the exact moment, just when it started coming up. And it was just that, yes, yes, of course. What else? And so this morning it was interesting because felt like going for a swim in the lake. And so I was there, and I didn't have my watch with me. I hardly ever do, because it's like I always know the time. But somehow it was, as I said, already 11:30, and I take around 20 minutes to get home. It's like, okay, but I'm there on time. I'm exactly on time. I went to the car at the exact limit to be able to be here on time. And I wasn't thinking about it because I thought I had loads of time. I wasn't there was no concern whatsoever. When I looked, it's, okay, it's 11:30. Right, okay, let's step on the pedal. It's gonna be all fine, perfect. And it's this, no matter what's happening in your reality, it's this feeling of such trust that everything is a flow. This week I took my car to the inspection and it failed. And I was so joyous that it failed and that I couldn't care about that a little bit, because it was just a joy that this guy was telling me that it failed and why it failed, so that then I could take it to the mechanic so that they could fix exactly the right thing. And I took it right after the guy was just perfect. He brought me home, and then he picked me up the other day. They took it to the inspection without me asking. They took it again. Everything approved, like such an ease and flow. But the joy of failing the inspection and not having one little bit of dismay was, oh my God, this is heaven.
Yeah. It happens the same for me. It's just like, oh my gosh, the same, like whatever is happening, for me, or how things are flowing or not flowing. It's just like as if I don't care. And it's not that I don't care, but
exactly,
all of these problems is just like, oh yeah, okay. Or
it's simple.
Exactly, like there's just no upsetness about it, is there? Like no,
yeah,
and
I would usually I would take my car to the mechanic before going to the inspection. But I felt, no, I'm going there right now. And I was the only person there, so I didn't have to wait 1 minute. And the thing is that thing that needed substitution would not have been easily detectable at the mechanic if I had not taken the car there first.
Yeah.
So it was just, like, it's just a medical inspection. It's just fine.
Exactly, yeah, for everything. And it is the same with everything. You just laugh with these things, and it is not something that we talk about lightly about this, because these are real experiences that we have. This is how
from within
we live life, these kind of things just become so I like, you know, whatever you do that other people stress about, that other people perhaps feel dismayed, or something happens that for another person it will totally shock them, because these kind of things still happen. You know, that's the thing. It's not that they don't happen, because we are all physical. It's not that all of a sudden your car's never going to break down or nothing. All of these things still happen. We still have to deal with everything. But it's just that there is no upsetness, there's no anger, there is no falling into victim. Oh, why is this happening to me? Or where am I going to get money to solve this? Sometimes the money comes the last day, or all of a sudden you realize when you look at all of the things that you have, it's just how much you actually have, you know, because we tend to otherwise focus on all these other things, and focus just on the one little thing. But when you are in this flow, you all of a sudden just realize just how abundant you really are with everything, and how easily these and how easily all these kind of, you know, human life flows. And at the same time, we do feel the pain of others, and, you know, all of these things, and frustration with this. So there are times when it's very, very not easy. It's very challenging. And sometimes I often do ask myself, why am I still staying here? I have to keep making that commitment. So, and this I'm just saying is that people sometimes have this kind of wrong, erroneous view of things, that you know, that you don't feel this, and that you have to hide, especially in sort of certain spiritual, you know, in spiritual communities where, you know, it feels like, oh wow, this would be perceived as failure, or I'm not perfect, or I'm not realized. You know, there is a lot of things like that going on. But then you come to a point where you really don't care anymore. You just really don't care about any of these things of how others perceive. It really is their choice how they perceive, and whether they interact with you or move away or whatever, you know. And again, that's again another freedom, incredible freedom, when you even step away, you know, even step away from, let's say, things that Tanya and I discuss, because we are also individuals, different, unique. Each one of us are individuals, and this is our truth at the moment. Let's say my truth, I'm talking at the moment, but what it will be in 1 year's time, who knows, you know. And it's nothing wrong. There are the truth as many as there are people, you know. And this is the thing, that when you are in your own energy, those so many things in this way do fall away. And now going into this oneness that we have, the subtitle, you know, there is a lot to talk about this oneness, but it just really, you go into this oneness of self. And like we talked about, of this flow, you know, there's you go into oneness of your flow because you are open, you allow, you are one with, and at the same time you are many, you know. So it's quite an incredible experience to be. But you don't have any more those parts, unintegrated parts, that undermine, that block, that would perhaps create painful experiences, that would perhaps hurt you, you know. Because all of those parts, they even perhaps not, some of them are not integrated, because some definitely they don't want to integrate. There are parts like that of yourself that don't want to integrate, but all of them are on notice in this way. They know that as soon as they're ready, as soon as they want to, they can. Nothing can stop them, and nothing will stop them. And the home within you is always open to them, is always loving to them. That access to your soul self, to that bubbling of joy, to that bubbling of that incredible radiance, you know, is always accessible to them. And so all of those parts that used to be, let's say, wounded, you know, or perhaps you have the parallel lives knocking, or the future lives knocking, you know, because when you're in the now moment, you can feel all of these parts. What is different is that in the past, the doors were closed, that you closed those doors. So you were all scattered. You were not one with yourself in this way. So one with yourself doesn't mean you have all these parts that they do integrate into one. And like you said, for me, that's my experience anyway, that there are times when I feel just one, and then there are times when I all of a sudden go into many. It's just like a flow and a dance of different kind of experiences. And how do you experience this, Tanya?
So this is really a beautiful theme because it is so vast, as you were saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in this case, the idea behind the title "Inviting Oneness" is precisely that, knowing that at any given point, no part has to be out of that you are that oneness. But then on the other hand, it's also realizing that whatever you're perceiving, so not only in our own inner realms, once we are definitely surrendered, we are definitely committed. I've said yes, and that's where I am consciously. Anything else just has the freedom to come whenever it feels it's ready. It's time. But then is perceiving that everything that we perceive in our reality is part of that oneness. So, in a sense, because we perceive our reality from our own perspective, so whatever,
Mm-hmm.
so the thing is that being hurt by anyone else becomes absolutely, totally, and completely impossible.
Mm.
And why? Because you own your pain. So
Mm.
if by any chance anything someone else did or said is felt as hurtful by you, it's none of their business. They're completely out of it. This is the kind of oneness that is not only experienced from within, but with all of the reality we
Mm-hmm.
perceive. That is
Mm-hmm.
also part of our oneness. So no one can really, in truth, hurt us ever again because we will take responsibility for whatever we are feeling. That is only ours. No one
Mm-hmm.
else is necessarily involved, even though they
Mm-hmm.
might have seemed to be involved by words or actions.
Mm-hmm.
They're not involved. It is our own truth and wisdom
Mm-hmm.
that is there to guide us through to the real reason of why eventually that could have made us feel this or that way.
Mm.
Or even feeling those liberating spurts of, wow, that person's doing this or saying that, and I am as peaceful as ever,
Mhm,
and it
mhm,
has no effect whatsoever
mhm.
on me.
Yes.
And so it's this flow of realizing moment to moment how the world around you, the world you perceive, because it's only your
Mm,
world, what you perceive, the world you perceive, the world I perceive,
mm,
how is it interacting in my oneness?
mm,
And if anything seems to not be, like if I see anything as me and them, so I'm creating a separation there, that's because there's something there for me to
mhm,
acknowledge
mhm.
about myself, because
Yes.
then of course they or the them can be whatever it is, but it flows in my oneness because it doesn't affect my
Mm,
grace and my
mhm,
ease. So that's also part of that oneness, is realizing that our
mhm,
outside reality is
mm,
just 100% of the time
mm.
reflecting our
Exactly, yeah.
whatever.
And that is why, like, we mentioned before, it doesn't matter what other, when you go over that certain step, it doesn't matter what other people say or think, about
Yeah.
what is their truth, because precisely because of all of these things, And then it also creates such a different relationship with nature, because you don't have to do any separation, but it's all of the creatures, the trees, the forest, the elements, is all part of you. You realize, wow, this is all your energy, and it is just such a delicious way of living. And this year, even though in many ways it has been quite challenging in some ways, this year for me, it has been all about just really realizing and experiencing this deliciousness again in a new way, in a much more mature way. That's what it feels like, that all of us in many ways have matured in so many ways with this. And then there is also, I think, like this oneness is talked about a lot by many different kind of groups, and a lot of the people, when they haven't created this kind of space, when they haven't realized that all is them, that all is their oneness, inner and outer, that then they actually think, and I used to be the same, they actually think that all of that their oneness actually is all other people, all of the humanity. And that's that subtle difference, really, because in many ways it is, because all of these people are in your energy, if they come into your energy, if they have an effect, and yet at the same time they really are not. And so many people, before they realize that all is their energy, when they think, oh, we're all going into oneness, then they talk about all this ascension of humanity as if that is their job, to make sure that humanity ascends, to make sure to convince everyone, to go into battle with everyone so that other people would change, because they feel that all of the other people have to change for them to go into this ascension or enlightenment or 5D or whatever. So in this way, there is an era of perception of this oneness. There is a oneness of you and everything around you, but it doesn't really include other people as their own independent beings, even if they don't realize that they are independent beings yet, you see. So that's where I think a lot of people are in that era. And also a lot of people do have still then that wishful thinking, because you sort of notice on the social media and stuff, a lot of people year after year, we have all these portals, and the 8th portal, 88, and this gate and that gate, and they will write, oh, and humanity is going through this gate, and then they will ascend the next day or something. Or the people that thought, 2012, where everyone is just going to ascend, it's all of that kind of era in perception, where they still haven't realized within themselves that real oneness, which is their oneness with the soul, or whatever. I don't know how to express it with words, but there is definitely that change of perspective, because then when you realize this oneness with yourself, you don't need to force anyone. You can radiate to other people, but you realize, just like you, that other people are in their sovereign space. They are playing this grand game, and they will come to their realizations when they're ready, maybe not in this lifetime, but that you're nothing that you do. You see, this is where I think a lot of people get frustrated, because they feel that they have to change the world, they have to change other people before they can experience this. But it's not true, and that's why there is so much division and battling going on, because people feel like, oh my God, what's going on? I have to change everyone. No, you don't have to change anyone. You just have to keep allowing your soul, keep allowing your own oneness. And that, of course, automatically makes a great change on the world. And yes, for some people, this change is not welcome, because they would still want to play the old way. And this too is one of those things you have to realize when you go through the real portals, not just those candy, like when people say, oh yeah, we're going through this portal, and then the next day humanity will ascend. That's just a mind candy. It's nice to read it, but nothing happens, and it's year after year after year the same kind of thing, and you ask yourself, well, didn't you say 10 years ago that this is gonna happen, really, because it's almost like you, but it's just because people do need those kind of sweet candies before you actually get the real thing. And the real thing, even though it is challenging, and it's incredible journey that you go through, but Jesus, it's worth it. It is incredibly worth. I mean, it's just like there is nothing on earth or in heavens or in any monies or in any that would make me go back into limitation. There is nothing, even though it was such a huge journey to get here, so to speak. There is nothing that would, because you truly do see it as a game. Over to you, Tanya.
Yeah, and actually, it is quite impossible to experience this
Mm,
oneness that we're talking about if we are constantly in judgment of what's going on around in the world. And, like, okay, so oh, humanity is going through a lot of change and people are going crazy and this and that. And if you keep attached to that and you're constantly judging what's going on and that people are in fear and that this is happening and that you will not be
mm,
able to experience this oneness within,
mm,
and there will not be that blissful contentment and that peace coming up
mhm,
continuously, feeding your body, because your body
mm,
keeps on changing and rejuvenating and getting healthier and healthier and all of those things. And if there is anything that needs to be adjusted, it will do whatever it needs to do naturally, because you're in that oneness with the body as well. And really then it becomes hard to experience what you were saying, that oneness with nature, because there's always that these preconceived ideas of what is comfortable and uncomfortable, dangerous and not dangerous, and where you
mhm,
should tread and where you should not, and maybe that path is not safe and maybe this or that.
mhm,
And so then basically you're not allowing your own oneness to guide you on the paths that are safe for you.
mm,
You're not trusting fully that you are in the right
mm,
place at the right time 100% of your time. There is
mhm,
no time that you are not going on the track that is more becoming of you, of
mm,
your own oneness. So then it also becomes hard to experience this ecstasy with nature, with wherever you are, because it could be what? It could be a sunrise, a sunset, it could be just midday, it could be any time of the day or the night. It could be in your backyard, or it could be in a
mhm.
forest, or on the beach, or in a lake, or wherever. Doesn't really matter.
In a
But that
cafe,
blend
in a
in a
cafe,
cafe, yeah, I'm talking
anywhere.
about in
Yeah,
nature,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
even in town,
In town also,
even in
yes.
town, in the middle of town, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you get these bouts of
Mm,
ecstasy
you do, yeah.
coming from, this fulfillment and this gratitude, this
Mm,
absolute gratitude for finally being with your 2 feet grounded on earth
mm-hmm.
and feeling what it is like to be one,
Mm,
what it is like to commune, to be at one with whatever is
mm,
in around you. Like, it can be in town or it can be
mm-hmm.
in a natural context. You just blend. There is not that the space outside and
Mm-hmm.
you. There
Mm-hmm.
is it's like I was sharing the other day when with my in my chat with Louisa. It's this love making, this
Mm,
constant love making,
mm-hmm.
where that pureness of it, then there is no other and you. It's like that is the oneness, is when you're
Mm,
experiencing that, and only you can
mm-hmm.
experience that. You cannot you can be that, you can
Mm,
embody that, you can allow that, and you keep on stepping up more and
mm,
more into that, because it never stops to
mhm,
evolve. That
mhm.
that merging, that oneness never stops
Never
evolving in
stops
the way you
evolving.
feel it.
Yeah,
That's what you can
yeah.
do. But and you can talk about it and share about it like we're
Mm,
doing now, but uh, you cannot sort of feed it into someone else. You cannot
no.
inject it into someone else.
Mm-hmm,
You cannot show, no matter how much you are
mm-hmm,
living a living embodiment of that,
mm,
you cannot show someone that does not want
mm-hmm.
to experience that.
No, no,
You just cannot.
no.
And so
Sorry, you go, you
uh,
go.
and so ascension is really,
Mm,
of course, it's all one
mm-hmm,
consciousness. Yes, it is. Because when we're speaking
mm-hmm,
in expanded consciousness language, the language is the same for all of us.
mm,
But ascension is an individual,
mm-hmm.
each individual facet of that expanded
Yeah.
consciousness evolves in and of itself.
It's a one
And
by
that's the
one
big,
job. It's a
there
one
you
by
are.
one job. It's not like a humanity ascending. It would be nice for people that have still not found peace within them. It would be nice if all of a sudden just everyone ascended. But the thing is, you see, that the thing is that unless you change that person who wishes that, people think that, okay, if everyone else change, then my life would be easier. But that's not correct, because your inner shadow would haunt you still, even if that was true, that okay, we're all gonna ascend as one planet without
Mm-hmm.
anyone doing any work. You see, but all of this is an inner job, it's an outer job. There is no difference really. There comes a point where there is no difference between inner and outer. We're just
Yeah.
using that as a way to communicate, and also as in every day we play, it's like, okay, at the moment I feel more like everything, and then everything's one, and then all of a sudden, like I said before, it all becomes, there is no rules. That's the thing, you're free, you're experiencing, but it is an inner job, because unless you experience each step of the way, you can't be a master, you can't be realized, because it doesn't, it does drop from somewhere into you for sure, but it doesn't drop as all of a sudden someone's going to have that magical wand. And it would be nice, especially when you're going through some really deepest of patterns that you're that you're dealing with, because you have to go through them, like for example, let's say if one has issues with relationship and it's incredibly painful, or perhaps they had some horrible things happen in the childhood or something, some horrible abuse and stuff. Unfortunately, you have to feel that powerlessness, that of that part that experience that it becomes alive. But you do it with the help, with the presence of your soul, and it changes everything. And so in this way, it is impossible just to have this magic wand, oh, everyone else is going to ascend and then I'm going to feel better. You're not going to feel better, because you're still going to have all those wounded parts inside, you see, because otherwise that person who thinks in that way, they could just go into some peaceful place in a forest and live there, if that was the case. You see, if they could be peaceful, if no one else did any bad things to them. And so with now, this is very pertinent now, because there is so much happening within mass consciousness, with lockdowns, and all of these people do feel very oppressed. But this oppression, feel it, that because it is on the inside. When you feel it from someone else, stop and notice and start breathing and feel where that oppression is within you, and breathe through it, whatever it brings up. It may take a while, maybe a few days, maybe a month, maybe a few months for some huge things, you see, but that's how you get rid of oppression. I mean, get rid of, you breathe through it. And within that, you actually get to know all of those parts that are oppressed. You get to know all of those parts of yourself that are the oppressor. You get to allow them to come home. You get to allow them to be loved. And then when you have both sides of that coin at home, that's when you step out of that game. Then you're out of that game, and that game no longer affects you. Then you still can look outside of you and see all these things, but somehow you are just not affected. You're not affected by COVID, or whatever you need to do, you do with ease and grace. And somehow you just navigate through, because the oppression doesn't touch you, because you have resolved it with yourself, and it's no longer in your energy field. It's no longer your reality, because you have stepped out of that. Over to you.
Actually, I'd like to answer the question that's here, and we
Oh,
can
is
both
there a
answer it,
question? Yes.
obviously. Yeah. So, this is really in tune with what we've been sharing. So, it says, when you perceived hurt or opposition, what have you done practically to feel at peace? Have you walked away from all those interactions? Have you openly set boundaries, even if the other person appears to become even more aggressive? So, I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to give an example,
Mm-hmm.
a personal example. I feel that giving examples is
Mm-hmm.
really relevant. So
Mm-hmm.
recently I've shared in my Just Breathe series that I resigned from my 25-year job in December.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the school that belonged to my mother, so it was a 34-year
Mm-hmm.
business. And obviously, I was part of it for all of those 34 years, though I only started working there 25 years ago. But non formally, I had been working on and off, helping out. It's just the way
Mm-hmm.
it goes. And I did, especially in the last 8 years, like a huge load of creative work to put this school at a different level than other language schools. So it's a language school. So we were already at that time, so over 20 years old, right? And so a need for change presented itself, because there was this challenge with schools starting to
Mm-hmm.
have already English from third grade here in Portugal. And so we were losing clients, and there was this need to do something different. And so that's easy for me. I'm in my creative mode all the time. So I just started creating educational projects, philanthropic projects, projects that made the whole community interact, that brought exactly the ones who are our clients closer to us, not because we wanted to make business with them, but because we were giving something back to the community, because we were sharing our creativity, our teachings in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
languages, and what you can do with the languages
Mm-hmm.
beyond a classroom. So basically, I did really loads of work that was very, very
Mm-hmm.
fun, but that my colleagues at school weren't so enthusiastic about, because it also required looking at things in a new way. So we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
people who've been in the same job for 15 years or more, and doing some things that they're not used to, and so on. And so how at times it felt frustrating, because you're
Mm-hmm.
wanting to implement
Mm-hmm.
change in a business as a whole, but then there's this one that doesn't want to cooperate, and that one that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want to. And what do you do? Well, what I did was just keep on staying in tune with my own creative space and my own joy and gratitude. And though there were moments of
Mm-hmm.
frustration where it felt a bit sad that there was not that easy
Mm-hmm.
flow of cooperation, I let it go and allowed new people to come, people who did not belong to the school staff, to cooperate in different kinds of projects. So I had my teams of
Mm-hmm.
different things working in different ways, and it was fun all the time. But then it happened in two things. One of the philanthropic projects, the person who had received these funds was supposed to do something that hasn't yet been done so far. And this was in 2016, 17, and that still has not been done. So I could be angry at that person. I could be saying, you've not been honest. What have you done with the money? We're talking about 5,000 euros. It's not 100 or 200. And these were fundraisers for all of the kids
Mm-hmm.
to develop creative projects and that. And I could be frustrated. I could be doing all sorts of things. But when I really dived inside and felt it within me, it felt so, so good that we've done those projects, because all of the kids involved, I'm talking about teenagers, in these projects have gone forward to do things in their lives which I'm sure they would not do
Mm-hmm.
if they had not been a part of these projects. Because in these projects, what I was sharing with them is, realize that your choices make a difference. Realize that you can solve
Mm-hmm.
problems without looking them as problems, but finding solutions instead. Realize that that you just keep on asking the right people, and if they say no, another person will provide. When you're
Mm-hmm.
organizing a project, you have to stay open for the
Mm-hmm.
no's, but keep on allowing the
Mm-hmm.
yeses. And so there
Mm-hmm.
were so many teachings in these things that they learned that have made them different people. And so I sat with that and said, okay. And I came
Mm-hmm.
inside of me, and I felt this within myself. And also I called a person
Mm-hmm.
inside of me, and I actually feel them, and I interact with that person at a human level inside in my core,
Mm-hmm.
and soul to soul. And that's how I solve these things. Then again, I had the issue of, so all of that body of work that was created. Now the new owners that bought this school just don't see the point, they don't care about
Mm-hmm.
it, they don't value it at all. And initially, when I realized that, it was shocking. It was
Mm-hmm.
really shocking that, so I've been working
Mm-hmm.
for all these years and produced and put this school at a level that is completely different from all other language schools in Portugal and in other places. And these guys are gonna destroy the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what did I do at the time again? So I felt in myself, so how does it make me feel?
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel less worthy? Do I feel hurt? How does it affect me? And so what I did was breathe deeply and feel, no, there is no hurt. No, actually, the school is theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. They bought it. Now they
Mm-hmm.
can go ahead. Now, so everything I've done will be lost. No, actually, it isn't lost, because it remains alive in the hearts of all of those it has touched. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all that matters, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had again a conversation inside of myself to understand their point of view with each one of these people, and felt and really felt them in their own point of view, in their own opinion. And there I came to peace, because
Mm-hmm.
in full acceptance of their view
Mm-hmm.
and their way, again, human to human, soul to soul, and completely settled the whole issue, and it's fine. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's whenever there is a situation that comes up in my life that could be challenging, like this,
Mm-hmm.
like for instance this situation, it could be a cause for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pain for most people, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's a cause for liberation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cause for
Mm-hmm.
freedom. It's a cause to step further into my own freedom, because I get the choice. What am I going to do with this? But I also get the choice to free these people from anything that I might be judging or feeling, by going within and having this
Mm.
conversation at another level, at another space of
Mm.
consciousness.
And this
And
is
that's it.
and this is such a beautiful example on so many levels, because this is the whole, like all of the, like there's so many, it's not even learnings but more like realizations, isn't it, within
Yeah.
every situation. And this is what also we mentioned before, that it's not that always that it happens that the solution is what the human mind would say. For example, the human mind would say, well, this was resolved if they took up what I
Yeah.
did, and if I got back the
Exactly.
5,000 euro, or
Whatever. Yeah.
it's not
Which I
that.
asked back.
Yeah,
I asked for the
yeah,
money back to distribute it in another way, but I haven't
yeah,
got it back. So what am I
yeah,
gonna do? Be angry?
exactly, yeah,
Keep on whatever? Keep on forcing?
yeah,
Keep go public and tell everyone,
yes,
this person is not to be trusted because she keeps on fundraising,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I don't care. It's not my story.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You step out of it, and this is just a beautiful, perfect example on so many levels what happens. And also another thing that I would like to perhaps add to this, like this person is asking what happens if, let's say, interaction, the other person becomes more aggressive. Throughout my journey, let's say if I perhaps look at the last 10 years, those kind of separations or setting of the boundaries have happened in many different ways through that journey. So initially, there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of anger, because when you are severing those unhealthy connections, the feeding connections between the people, another person can become extremely angry, and for a long, long time, because they are losing their point of feeding, and they are not, like, unlike you, they are not redirecting themselves to get that into their own fountain of well-being, where they then get all the nourishment they want. So they actually, it's a big change for them, they have to find someone else. And people ask who are on this journey, we have so much with which we can nourish already, even before we do this huge redirection, time for us. And so people, we do when we really start awakening, not awakening, but waking up to these patterns, we find that we have incredible feeding relationships within our lives. So that is a huge thing. It's a huge theme through which we walk in the way that Tanya described, not in the way that we blame another, but we let them go and we let the other person be with their feelings and emotions. We're not responsible. So there are so many different layers that and awarenesses and realizations that we have in each that kind of interaction when we are present. And a lot of the interactions can be very intense and very unpleasant. I remember when I was leaving, I gave notice at one of my jobs, and my gosh, those 2 weeks, because I had to give notice for 2 weeks, that untangling between the manager and myself. And it was, because there was so much manipulation, there was so much power games, there was, it's a normal job place. It's a very full-on power game. It's not a pleasant when you see the interactions of energy. So when I was untangling of that, and remember, we fully participate until we don't. So it's not blaming the other person, but just seeing and realizing, and then untangling, and just walking through that uncomfortable part, because that too shall pass, and you come out of it more aware, more enabled, more self-empowered, in this way that you realize, wow, I trust myself. I can trust myself through even these kind of things, and I see how that works, and I am never going to create that again. But it does require stepping out, and a lot of people will get very upset because we are severing all of those unhealthy things. And just know that each one of us have had to do this, and every time you do it, you become more aware of your boundaries, and you become more uncompromising with your boundaries, because boundaries are huge. You can only, like all of these things that we talk about, you can only do within the safe space of yourself. And your boundaries, they are not made of walls, but they are made of that incredible commitment to yourself, incredible self-love, incredible self-honor, that you will not put yourself at the disposal for other people to feed on you. And that also helps them, because all of a sudden they realize there is another way to be, because they see you free yourself. They have a choice then. Do they change to keep interacting with you in a healthy way, or you walk out? So for me, it's every individual situation is different. You can't get a rule and apply it. But when you are with yourself, sometimes it needs to be walk out. You walk out, they walk out. Sometimes you move. Sometimes you stop talking or interacting with that person. Sometimes you walk away from them, you unfriend them from social media, you block them, whatever it takes for every, because depending on where you are, you see, in your journey. So all of those kind of sorts of things, and also know that those things are not permanent. Like I find that once I've let people go, maybe a couple of years later, they've come back into my life in a whole new way, you see. So it's not, and some people haven't, but and some situations haven't. But it's not like you are, how can I say, some kind of wounded because you have to walk away from certain people. No, you are actually feel good, and you feel whole, and you feel wholesome, and you feel good about setting the boundaries, you see. So it's like Tanya described this beautiful, you make those kind of choices. What is in it for you? What are you experiencing? What was this battle about? How did you contribute? How does your energy flow in this? How are you feeding on another person? How, like, how can you integrate what that other person is playing for you, because they may be playing a part for you, that you are not recognizing within yourself. How do you then integrate that part of yourself? How you bring it home? And then when you bring that part home, that whatever the other person can, firstly, they cannot feed on you anymore, because they have nothing to hook on anymore. And also that whatever they do, you realize, wow, it really doesn't hurt you, it doesn't wound you, it doesn't matter, and they have absolute right to be who they are, to experience their emotions however they are. But you have absolute right to say, no, not in my space, you see, if they want to keep doing that same old story. So you become very, and this goes against, against, not in a battle way, but it goes again, that's that audacity that I often talk about, because you step out of the cultural conditioning, like in a human society. Oh, the culture is all so important, and this and that. You step out of all of those conditions and all of those etiquettes that keep people imprisoned in very unhealthy emotional interactions with people. So it's huge, and I would like to congratulate you that you are that you have decided to look at this, to work with this, and we can give like sort of like how we're dealing with it. But the main thing is to find your own way to, and as you are with yourself, and you go like Tanya has described so beautifully, you will find your own way. You will find it's your knowingness that then guides you. Is it, and depending on this other person, is it time to walk away? Is it time to close the doors for a while to that other person? Or do they change? You see, there is no pre-prescribed, nothing with this is a pre-prescribed rule, because this is the mind does that. You see, the mind likes the habits, the sameness, and pre-prescribed rules. It likes to read something in the book or somewhere, some rules, some steps, and then, okay, I'm going to do this. And that is because when the mind is your boss, it is separated from the source. When you are with the source, with your soul, it is this continual nourishment of knowingness, of talents, of abilities, of expansion that you continually get. So you know how to do, you know what to do, you in the moment as it happens. Over to you.
Yeah, I'd like to add about the aggressive
Yeah.
part that
Yeah.
when you are allowing your oneness, when you're really, really in that deep trust within you, and you've got a very clear choice of how you
Mm.
want to experience your presence here, and if your choice is one of ease, of grace, of
Mm.
simplicity, whatever it is, of peace, whatever it
Mm.
is, you can look in the eyes of that
Mm.
person that is being aggressive without one little inkling of fear. And that person
Mm.
will not, and this is absolutely certain, will
Mm.
not hit you or do anything to
Mhm.
harm you physically, though the person might seem to be in a rage. If you can fix your eyes on the eyes of that person
Mhm.
from that inner space of such peace
Mhm.
that you are looking at that rage, but it is not affecting you
Mm.
in any way, it's not removing you
Mhm.
from your peace within, that in itself is a
Mhm.
protection. You don't need any
Mhm.
other protection, because many times in
Mhm.
situations like couples and things like that,
Mhm.
sometimes things get pretty tricky when one
Mhm.
person starts removing those feeding cords and the
Mhm.
other person was really used to that, and it can be quite aggressive. That other person can get really angry,
Mhm.
but if you manage to stay firm in yourself and not go into fear
Mhm.
and know that your heart is there with you, I
Mhm.
mean, when I mean your heart, I mean your soul, through your heart is emanating a
Mhm.
field that is completely non inclusive of that kind of
Mhm.
behavior, because you're being firm there. You're not allowing the feeding, because the anger, the rage serves to feed. That's why the
Mhm.
aggressive comes in. It just serves to feed. But
Mhm.
if you don't play that game, if you don't interact in it, either by
Mhm.
fear, by words, by whatever, it will
Mhm.
just move in another direction.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that is in itself such a big realization
Mhm.
of the power,
It's a
the
superpower.
real power, exactly, of the power of grace. It's a
Yeah, yeah,
superpower,
yeah,
but it is,
yeah.
it's just incredible.
Mm.
This has happened to me more than
Mm.
once. I have
Mhm.
stood in front of people that they
Mhm.
could kill me in that
Mhm.
moment. Their rage was so
Mhm.
big.
Mhm.
And feeling this peace wash over me,
Yeah.
this peace that is
Yeah.
so, so huge,
Mm.
they just could not come close.
Mm. No, they couldn't. No.
And
For
so, yeah,
yeah.
you just stay. You don't need to. I mean,
No.
there's no point arguing
Mm.
with that kind of thing,
Mm.
because that is just a way. That
Yes.
person is trying to find a way to
That's
grab
right.
you. That's
That's right.
all.
Yes.
There's no
And
point.
and this is very huge. Like you get shocked because when you actually see people for what they are throughout this, you do realize, wow, all of these interactions of people are actually just feeding games. When you actually
Mm,
start realizing, you get shocked at all of
yeah,
that. And there are quite a number of shocks that you get throughout this journey because you actually see the game for what it is, the
yeah.
3D. You see the 3D is actually not pleasant at all, not in any way. Like it's kind of like waking up in the matrix when you realize it is slimy, it is dirty, it is full of this feeding, it's full of manipulation, it's full, and you what you used to think were kind and nice people, all of a sudden you realize how manipulative they are to get food, the
Mm,
energy. And this is
mm-hmm.
not something to say bad about people, because all of us were, when we were in 3D, we played that. And you are the one that are stepping out of that and redirecting your energy flow. So you get your nourishment from your own self. And so that's then takes you out of that 3D, but seeing it. And for me, like all of these anger things were happening when I was disengaging, and it was incredibly intense on those times. And you are right, like you can stand in front of that angry person and it doesn't affect you. And then there's another level, another issue with that, that yes, you also, if you're still holding that suppressed anger, the suppressed rage within you, then those people have a hook to hook into you. But once you become intimate with,
Yeah.
when you become intimate with all of those parts of yourself, then you're so intimate, even with the most rage, with the most darkest of dark of yourself, then you have no fear. You have absolutely no fear in seeing it. And you then step out of any judgment. You get over that shock when you see, and it doesn't shock you anymore. You just realize, wow, look at what they're doing. But I find that then there comes a point that I don't actually ever see any angry people. Like I haven't
No,
had an
not
angry,
now.
not
For
now.
a
This is it,
long,
isn't
long
it?
time.
Yeah, long
Yeah, for
time. Like
years. For
now it
years.
hasn't been. So once you step
Yeah.
out of it,
It ends.
there isn't, like there's no, there is, it's just like you just never get into any this kind of situation that
Yeah.
anybody would be angry with you, because
It
you
just
have,
is not in your space anymore.
no, I mean, you can interact with others in a kind way, in a
Yeah.
nice way, in a friendly way, in an honoring way. Sometimes people do things that, a lot of the times people do things that it's like, oh my God, but you just learn how to do your boundaries and you navigate through, and it just doesn't really, it does often, your behavior shocks other people because you don't play those games. You cut those feeding, boom, really quickly.
Yeah.
But now anymore doesn't actually
So you never get to the
angry.
point where any
No,
of that is going to happen.
never, no.
And not even like, not even, I don't witness any road rage
Me
or
neither.
anything. None of
Nothing.
that ever happens. So
No.
once you've done these things like that,
Yes.
you've had to put those
Yes.
boundaries in place, from then on you can expect more
Yes.
peace
Yes. Yes.
constantly.
And
Definitely. But you
and
have to do
integrate.
that at some
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Integrate your
Integrate. Yes.
darkness
Yes. Once you've
and have
set
no
the boundaries,
judgment.
once you've set the boundaries and integrated your shadow, then all of that falls away. It truly does.
Yeah.
I think we have another question.
People, then, even the people that some people, it's a comment here, even those people who think whose other people think are bad or whatever, they don't act like that with
No,
us. They
no.
act like that with us. And
Yes.
it's just incredible to observe. This comment here is really interesting.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to read it,
Okay. I
Alexis?
was going to say that for me, that's the essence of it. Holding your own space in so many situations is what has created many miracles, changes beyond what would have expected at human level. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Beautifully said. And this is the essence, like of everyday life that we talk about. It is this everyday life,
Yeah.
and the interactions with people and interactions with life. It's very different.
Yeah. And I really feel we've sort of come full circle with our
Yes.
sharing here
Yeah.
today. I don't know if you, like, you're
Yes.
feeling the same thing,
Yes, I
but
feel
it just feels
completion.
so settled. It,
Yes, it does.
yeah, exactly. It feels
And also before
that
we go,
we've really moved through.
a lot, yes. And also we
Oh,
haven't
please go ahead.
we haven't actually thanked at the beginning all of those that donate and support our show, because that is a huge big
Oh,
thing.
yes.
And also
Thank you
we
very,
want
very
to
much.
invite each and everyone to check out our website to see all of the different things we are doing. And also next week we have the new energy waltz. And so would you like to talk about this?
So Alexis and I felt this invitation from within to create a private space 1 week after our living in the flow sharing, where we
Mm-hmm.
are with a maximum of 11 people, so 1 to 11 people, and there we interact directly. Because when we have these sharings, we've noticed that it brings up a lot of things, a lot of change, a lot of transformation, and that eventually it is helpful to come to a sort of completion afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
and that is more private and more intimate. So we've created this new energy waltz that is an opportunity for each one who is present to share where they are at as well. And actually questions can also be asked live, but basically it's really a waltz. It's being in that space of expanded consciousness where it's like a spiral of ascension that is created within each one
Mm-hmm.
by choice, with whatever was shared in the living in the flow before. But of course, anything else basically that's going
Mm-hmm.
on in each person's life at that moment when you join the new energy waltz.
Exactly. So please join us. There is a fee with that, and it's going to go for 2 hours. It's going
Mm-hmm.
to be next week. So we're looking forward to that as well.
And
And
it's
also
not live. I mean, it doesn't go on Facebook or
public.
anything. It's
It's
really
not public.
private. It's not
Private group.
public.
Yes. So it's a private chat group, discussion group, and we're really looking forward to that. And also, yes, so
Yeah.
check out our stuff, check out the private sessions. I've got for me, I've got a 1 hour class tomorrow with Mikhail
Mm.
on perspectives. I'm really looking forward to that. The material has already downloaded on a walk the other day, and it's all about how you change, how you step easily from one perspective to the other. And it's just going to be delicious, very
Mm.
experiential. So I really look forward to all of these things. So please check
Yeah.
out for that. And would you like to announce anything, Tanya, as well?
Yeah, so I've coming up we have the Pure Silence of Business retreat. Is a 3-day retreat people can experience in
Mm-hmm.
wherever they are. So we will be, I will facilitate compassionate breath, and also there is self massage and the tai chi and
Wow.
different things within the silence. So people are to be in silence for at least 3 days, fully in silence wherever they are, or with us. So we also host that in person, and that's the 8th, 9th, and 10th of October coming up. So it
Mm.
can be online or in presence, and it's the presence. Basically, there's very feminine masters in this co-creation. It's Lady Nada, who is
Mm.
always with me 100% of the time, and then from her as well, Mary Magdalene, because it's the same consciousness, and Kuan Yin is very present in this as well. Isis. Um, it's a very strong feminine sort of womb to provide a depth of stillness and silence that brings absolute
Mm.
clarity throughout those 3 to 5 days. So we've got that coming up. I also have individual sessions. I call isness mentoring. Um, Basically holding space for your own wisdom,
Mm.
for your own clarity, for it to just come up. So it's my soul, your soul, they connect
Mm.
completely, and then from there the wisdom comes from you.
Mm.
So I have that, and we have the breath going on, and now there's the enlightening showers of presence, which is a
Mm.
3-month program of breathing, conscious breath,
Mm.
compassionate breath, and also we have sharing of magic. What is that?
Wow.
Like each person in that group gets to share what they are experiencing that is an upgrade in their lives.
Mm.
So,
Wow.
as a consequence of the breath invitations, For
Mm.
instance, the last one was control, going past control, the need for control. This one was what pulls you away from
Mm-hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
from the love within. What pulls you away from staying there? Basically,
Mm.
then becoming aware and then sharing the upgrades. So it's not
Excellent.
about sharing what's going wrong, it's about sharing, oh my God, this is expanding.
Mm. Mm.
So it's sharing miracles.
Oh, beautiful.
So
Wow.
everyone shares in their own masterful space of sovereignty. This is what my life is producing
Mm.
now.
And
So that's
as you
really
were
been beautiful.
talking, I think I got the theme for our next show, and I think it's about feminine within
Hmm.
all of us. So we have to come up with a title, but I think it's time
Okay.
we also talk about that.
Let's
How,
do that.
yes, all right. And each and every one of the participants, whether now live or watching this later, we thank you with gratitude and namaste to each and every one. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Thank you.